you're here is
Mhm.
to invest in the direct sales force
Mhm.
and coach and train and find out what we're measuring on in metrics and things
Mhm.
like that. So when I hear that Phil wants to bring in somebody to invest in the sales team, that's why I'm kind of taken aback, and in that you feel that way or have felt that way. I didn't know that, and I won't vocalize that anywhere outside of here. But when I think about CRM and using it as a tool, and I'm maybe getting off track here, the field and the whole organization has entered information into this customer feedback log for what seems like eternity. And I have felt that way too. They put it into play. Marketing would say to me, if I said to them, I've had this call, this is years ago when I used to be on the phone, I've had this call 15 times this month. What are we doing about reimbursement, and what are we doing about XYZ, whatever it might be. It happens 15 times a month. Well, if you track it, then I could put this metric in place, and then I can tell you how. And just to recap, I think that's what you're feeling about the customer feedback log too. And I don't know how our field is going to feel about documenting stuff in CRM, other than if we can get them to feel like it's helping you move the sales process forward. It's a metric. You can plan your day from it. But a lot of information, like Joe says, gets documented for product updates, product failures, marketing materials, and lays stagnant.
Okay.
And people talk about wanting metrics, and your baby, the pipeline report. Okay, I know it's important, but it's a pipeline report. I mean, see, this company has never had a direct sales force. What they don't know is that half that stuff's bullshit, and it's up to me to filter through it. It's up to me. If I put the entire pipeline report, you wouldn't have enough rows on your spreadsheet for what these guys are telling me they're working on.
But otherwise, how do we get visibility to that though if we don't have something like that as an organization?
Well, you're right, but what every company I've worked for before, asked for a forecast, that's why at the beginning I only had 4 things there, because I thought all anybody'd want to know is what's within 60 days of closing. They want to see everything? That's fine. I put it on there. I have 99 rows, and okay, there it is. But what's really, I guess, most important is everybody's asking about metrics. And you know what? The only metric that matters is what did you sell this month? I mean, that's the metric that matters. And, like I said, I'll do whatever senior management tells me to do, but
you said you have to filter through the pipeline report. What are some of the things that you look at when you filter through that pipeline report?
Well, I ask questions that will tell me whether or not it's a valid, active prospect.
Okay.
If you can't tell me the name of somebody, it's not very valid. If you can't tell me their volume of product usage, it's not very valid.
Okay.
If you can't tell me the name of the director of materials management, it's not very valid. If you can't tell me the coordinator of the value analysis committee, it's not very, I mean, if you haven't even developed your decision-making unit in that account yet, what are you putting it on a pipeline for? I mean, you might as well be throwing a dart in the dark, because you really haven't even qualified that account as a prospect yet. All it is, it's an account in what I call your universe. It just exists. We could put them all in there if that's all we wanted to look at. And so when somebody can't tell me what's the revenue estimation for this account annually, and they can't tell me, well, why is it here? Those are the types of questions I ask, and those are the answers that I need to have before I want something to go on a pipeline report.
And how often do you struggle with sales reps answering those questions?
It's a lot different now that I've got my guys here. My guys know me. They've all worked for me before for anywhere from 5 to 10 years. They know what I'm looking for, and I don't really have much of a problem with it. The other 2, I have 4 that have worked for me before, and then I have Bob Nitty, who's been here for like 7 years. He doesn't give any BS out. I mean, He's been around. It's not his first rodeo. He gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Scott he worked for one of the most difficult to work for companies in existence, in Massimo. So he's used to being just berated on a regular basis. And so I don't really have a problem with this stuff, other than the fact that we have, 7 or 8 stages? 8?
7 stages, yeah. I think the 7th one is lost. I showed you the pipeline,
yeah.
but I can send that to you if you
Oh, no,
yeah. Learn.
If something's not, well, you'll see on my pipeline report, I don't have the stage. I haven't input a stage number on probably 80% of what's there, because there just isn't any stage yet. It hasn't gotten to the point where it's anything more than just a prospect.
Okay.
At this point.
What are some of the things that you're measuring? You got the pipeline report, and if you don't know who the decision maker are, it doesn't get on the pipeline report. So there's activity.
Well, that's not the only reason.
Okay, well, that's just one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain qualifications that have to be met in order to be on the pipeline report. What are some things that you're measuring that are pre-pipeline report? Activities that are going on that are not on the pipeline report. What are you tracking or measuring or looking for in that area?
To me, the sales rep has to be able to give me a valid reason that survives my vetting as to what is the customer's perception of our solution. What is the customer's perception of their need?
Okay.
If they can't answer that,
okay,
it really doesn't it may go on the pipeline, but it doesn't get graded yet.
Okay.
In a stage that's meaningful. The first meaningful thing that would permit something to be qualified with a number for the stage would be the decision-making unit in that account has been identified.
Okay.
Until that's happened, I mean, by admission, if you don't know who the decision-making unit is, there's not going to be any decision. I would defy anybody to argue with that. If you accept the existence of a decision-making unit, if you accept that concept, and you don't know who it is, there's no decision-making going to be made.
I think that's our stage 2.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think number 1 was qualification.
Yeah.
And qualification is where that whole uncovering of the customer's concept of
Finding
their
their pain?
own solution.
Are you in finding pain in 2 or 1? I forget.
It should be 1, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
If 2 is the decision-making unit, then 1 is the area where you're qualifying. And anytime you're qualifying the customer, you're looking for their concept of their solution. Not our concept, their concept.
And what do you look for to qualify?
Well, I think size is important. I think most of the questions to qualify an account the answers to those questions can be provided from our type of sales cycle in 2 areas, biomedical engineering and purchasing. I'm not saying purchasing has any influence on the sale whatsoever, but why waste time on trying to sell something that you wouldn't qualify as a valid target? So what you need to find out is volume of product used. You're going to get that in biomedical engineering and purchasing. You may get it in biomedical without needing purchasing. It depends how involved biomedical engineering is. Biomed may give you the name of somebody that can give you that volume type of information as well without going to purchasing. However, you've got to go to purchasing to find out if they have an existing contract.
Okay.
If you don't get those 2 questions answered initially, you're really wasting your time. Because you can do a lot of work in identifying the decision-making unit. Clinical people don't always know that they're product they're using is contractually obligated.
Right.
Matter of fact, they most of the time don't know that. So they'll go, yes, 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 this is great, and then you find out, oh shit, this isn't going to go anywhere until this contract's expired.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pretty much have alienated purchasing as well, because they know they've got a contract and they're not happy that,
Mm-hmm.
you were in there trying to work around it. Not that I care about that, but it's just another battle to fight.
So size and purchasing and biomedical are two areas in qualifying. What else?
Well, more importantly is the why they're important. And you got to find out volume of product being used, because if it's not enough, it's not worth pursuing.
Okay.
And number two is, are they on a contract?
Okay. Okay.
These are great profile questions to put into our CRM stuff. I hope Marcy tapped this from you.
I don't remember, probably.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of lengthy meetings about that.
Good, because,
With Rick and Ann and Marcy.
I like hearing this stuff, and that everybody can follow a successful path.
The other thing too is you might as well ask this when you ask the contract question is, what GPO is the customer a member of? That stands for Group Purchasing Organization. I didn't know how often you get involved in the medical business, but that's GPO's Group Purchasing Organization.
Okay.
And
IDN?
yeah, IDNs too, and then if we aren't a member of one of those groups, would they consider buying from us anyway?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those questions all need to be answered, because they can be the deal breaker at the 11th hour and you didn't know it, and you just spent, who knows, 3 months, 4, 6, 8 months working with clinical people, when in fact you should have just said, I'll come back in 18 months when the contract's due for renewal.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You mentioned two things that the sales team is kind of distracted by: the no variable comp plan and then unresolved issues. Is there anything else that they share that's frustrating?
What are you going to do with this information? This isn't something I would expect you to be passing on to anybody.
Yeah, I know, I'm not.
To be honest, I just wouldn't expect you to be passing that on to anybody. This is kind of like.
We're looking for items to include in a statement of work, which would be a reason to bring me in. If there's no reason to bring me in, then putting together a statement of work would be a waste of time. So my questions are looking for opportunities for me to work with you, and if there aren't, then we're saving each other a lot of time. But
Could that kind of just be a side note with Joe kind of
Sure.
vetting and getting that
Yeah.
out there, and then we.
Yeah, I'd rather not open
Okay.
up my
Yeah.
kimono with respect to that sort of stuff, because I don't see any way that you'd be able to help with that. I think you can be helpful with sales processes and things like that.
Well, I'm hoping to work
But-
in the whole sales chain from Phil all the way down. So these are obviously areas that are having an impact on productivity and sales volume, right? Because anytime a salesperson is distracted, they're not selling. And when they're not selling, they're not generating revenue. And then, everybody's expectations of revenue are not being met, and it's because of these unresolved issues that salespeople are distracted by.
Okay.
So that's the reason I'm
Do you
asking.
think it's fair feedback to roll up, or do you
But,
feel
I mean,
like you're opening up your
we can move on to other
Well, I'm
stuff.
not looking to throw my boss under the bus.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's the reason I asked, Joe. I mean, like I said, I've been in sales. I know what it's like when you're frustrated and you don't have leadership and your comp plan's not defined and you're giving feedback up the chain, but you're not getting anything back down. When, a salesperson is the voice in the field, and they're the ones that are bringing to management leadership, here's what's going on out in the industry. And if we want to stay competitive, you need this information. And hopefully marketing would be more supportive than what I'm hearing. They're not so supportive.
They try to be. I mean,
But there doesn't seem to be a correlation between sales and marketing, where marketing is generating enough interest and then salespeople are picking up on that interest and then carrying it out, because a reason for a prospect to identify themselves as wanting to make a change is not being really amplified, and marketing is not being reinforced that, hey, this is the message that's really vibrating right now. We're getting a good response on this message.
let me just kind of explain something else too. Everybody in marketing right now is brand new. The one person that's decent with unbelievable experience has been reassigned into something, he doesn't even affect my group, which is absolutely absurd.
Wow.
There are 4 people now that are
Is
brand
that Brian
new.
King?
Yeah. There are 4 people that are brand new.
Mm-hmm.
I'm training them.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have time for that? Absolutely not.
No, I imagine not.
And, you know, they hear I'm having a sales meeting. Oh, can we come? Can we? No. You know, I am having a sales meeting because my guys are going to help trade ideas of what's working and not working. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, that's what our marketing department is right now.
Yeah.
It's how much experience those 4 people have combined with Nana. Not even a year combined.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of them is pulled over from tech service, so there's
Okay.
some history, but
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
at least a lot of product knowledge.
All right. So I mentioned the quota, and that's still, you know, being developed. What other things are you tracking or measuring or looking for when it comes to a rep within a week?
Within a week, what do you mean?
Yeah. What activities are benchmarks, milestones do you want them accomplished within a week?
Okay, let me tell you what I'm not interested in. This might be
Okay.
interesting, okay?
Okay.
Interesting to you. Well, what I'm not interested in is quantity. What I am interested in is quality.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be really honest with you, and if any sales manager ever argued with this, I would debate it. I don't care if a guy works 1 day a week. If he's making the numbers, I could care less. Plain and simple. And when you start insisting, not you, when one starts insisting that you'll make, and this is what Phil was telling me in my conversation with him, well, how many calls are they making a day? I mean, I don't think he really understands what a call is in our business.